Here is a more detailed video on how to sew the bikini trim the way I do it with no elastic needed. Please notice that the trim or the string that will tie around your neck will be on the outer sides of the triangles. Therefore, you have to attach the center front trim to the triangles first. Align the trim to the triangle like this with the right sides together. That means when you're sewing, you will see the wrong side of the fabric. Make sure you stretch the material a little while you sewing it to make sure that the thread doesn't break, and follow the edge of the bikini top precisely. And when you're finished with this part, cut off the excess material, the trim, and notice how the pattern of the triangle is slightly slanted at the bottom. It goes in a bit right there. That is so that it folds perfectly and it's not showing on the other side. Now we're going to enclose the seam in the trim. I will show you a close-up of how to fold the trim, but you basically fold it over twice to make sure that the raw edge of the bikini is covered. You see how I enclose it, and make sure that the trim it goes a little bit outside of the stitching line on the wrong side, so that when you stitch it on the right side, you catch the trim on the inside. And stitch very closely to the fold line all the way down, and double stitch at the end. When you're finished, cut off the excess material so it's nice and clean, and we're going to fold the bottom right there, you see. But look at the inside, how I caught the trim with my stitching. So make sure you fold it over enough so that you catch it when you sew. So once you have the inner trim applied, you can apply the outer trim, and this will tie around your neck. Follow the exact same instructions to attach this side of the trim. Make sure you're stretching the material a little bit as you sew. The only thing is that you will not cut off the excess material at the top of the swimsuit. And notice how I follow the edge precisely. And again, you double fold the trim. Make sure the fold on the inside is long enough to go over the stitching line, and you top stitch as close as possible to the fold line, and you stitch on the trim. And when you get to the top of the swimsuit, the part that is going to tie around your neck, you just continue stitching. You can double stitch if you want, but you can just keep folding the trim and stitching. You see how I enclose the raw edges of the trim on the inside. And again, don't forget to stretch the material as you sew. That way the string and the thread won't break when you stretch the string. And when you're finished with this triangle, you will do the exact same to the other triangle. Just before you start sewing, lay them out side by side and make sure you are attaching the center front trim to the correct side of the other triangle, because it can happen that you attach it to the same side and then you'll end up with two right side triangles or two left side triangles, and we don't want that. Here I am attaching the inner side of the trim, so the part that will be at the center front, just like that. Cut off the excess material. Follow the exact same instructions. And now I'm going to attach the trim that is going to be on the outer side of the triangle that will tie around your neck. And here again, I'm following the little slanted line and pivoting to make sure I attach it properly and stretching it while I sew. When I get to this side, I like to enclose the trim from the top to the bottom, as I always like to look at the right side of the swimsuit when I'm stitching, and this is the only way that you can do it on this side. And when you finish this, then you will continue sewing the string from the top of the triangle. See, I fold it again and then continue sewing from the tip of the triangle all the way to the end of the string, stretching it, and then when it's done, you have your triangles just like that. And now we're gonna do the bottom and fold it so we can pull a string through it. Before that though, I make sure that the sides are the same length, because sometimes you stretch one side more than the other. So if that happens, you can just cut off the excess material so they are the same length. If you have a serger, you can serge the raw edge of the bottom and then just fold it over once. If you don't have a serger, you can double fold. You see how, so this is how you would fold it if it was serged, but since I'm not serging it, I'm going to double fold it. So do a little fold and then a bigger fold, and then I pin it right there on both sides to make sure that the material doesn't move. And then I just stitch as close to the fold line as possible on the wrong side of the bikini. Make sure you stitch it as straight as possible, and again stretch the material when sewing. Because I have contrast material trim here, I will switch the thread and then finish sewing the little parts of the swimsuit there, because you need to stitch it all the way to the end of the trim. Before I fold over and stitch the other side, the other triangle, I always measure it and make sure that they are the same length. And also when I'm finished sewing them, I double check that they're the same. And we are now going to make the bottom. So stitch the front and the back side together. Yes, the material is doubled because I'm using the self as a lining, but you can do the lining in a different material, in a nude, which I normally do, as this is not a reversible bikini, so it doesn't matter. You will attach the top of the front and top of the back trim first, because the part that will go around your leg will be the part that will tie on your sides. And here you will follow the exact same sewing instructions as you did with the top. So you will attach the trim right sides together and then fold it over and stitch again close to the fold line, and make sure you catch the back of the trim on the inside of the bikini. And you will finish the top of the front and top of the bottom first. And when you finish with this, you will cut off the excess material. So I just finished the top of the back here, and I will do the same to the front side right there. And when you have it finished, make sure you have a long enough strings to attach to the sides like that. So again, you leave long enough strip of the trim, and then you start sewing right sides together, stretching the material a little as you sew. Make sure you stretch the trim a little more than you stretch the bottom, like the swimsuit. That way the trim is a little bit tighter, and this is why you don't need an elastic, because the trim will be your elastic basically. And attach the long strings to the both sides of the bikini bottom. And again, we will fold and stitch on the right side of the swimsuit. You can pin this in place as it will be easier for you. I've been doing it for a long time, so I don't need to pin it, but I just fold as I stitch. You will fold and stitch all the way around. Notice how I'm stretching the material. And then when you get to the top edge of your swimsuit, this is the back panel, you just continue sewing the string. You do not need to cut off the thread. You just keep folding and keep stitching just like that. And make sure you leave long enough strings. It's always easier to just cut them off if they're too long afterwards. And notice now I came back to the front panel and finished stitching the string, double stitch, and then continue stitching and stretching. And now you repeat the whole process again to the other side, but now you start stitching at the back panel of the bikini, because you always want to stitch from the right side of the material. So here I'm showing you again exactly how I fold it over. That's the wrong side, and then I switch it to the right side, just like that. You can again pin it all in place, and then you stitch on the right side of the trim close to the fold line all the way around, and continue as you get to the end of the front panel. And once you have that all finished, you have a bikini bottom just like this. And you see how the seams are enclosed. You see the little edge of the trim, that is the wrong side, and then this is the right side, and it's nice and stretchy. And now I just cut off the string to make sure they're the same length. And then you can also cut them off when you try it on if it's too long. And that's it. The last thing is to make the string that you will pull through the bottom of the bikini tops. And here I use this looper, or how you call it, I don't know, but you pull it through the bikini and then just pull the string just like that. It's super easy, and then you can adjust the bikini top however you want it. And we're all done. I hope you were able to make this bikini for yourself, and I hope you really like it. Thank you for watching.